Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got a big storm coming with very windy conditions, severe weather, and burst of snow with huge temperature swings over the next 7 days. Happy Friday everyone, how's it going out there? We got a lot to talk about in this update, so we're going to delve into the details and really break down the next 7 days for you because we've got a lot of changes on the table. We'll start off with the overall height anomalies for this afternoon, April the 8th. We see this huge trough setting up over portions of the Ohio Valley. That's actually bringing some much cooler conditions and actually sporadic snow showers in its wake, but it's completely the opposite out here off the West Coast under that ridge of dominating high pressure. In fact, they hit 103 degrees yesterday in Santa Ana, California, and a lot of those record high temperatures will actually continue later on this afternoon. In fact, there's actually about 13 record high temperatures predominantly over portions of the West. In fact, Southern California with widespread 90s for Southern California today under that ridge of high pressure. But there's the much colder conditions and cooler air for April standards over much of the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley and some of the mid-Atlantic states. But as we transition into tomorrow, that trough will continue to move, and as it does, it brings the colder temperatures in its wake, and that'll be shifting into portions of the Northeast while that ridge is still going to be dominating out here off the West Coast. But we're starting to see subtle changes with another developing trough that's going to be diving in off the West Coast. That's actually bringing much colder conditions, going to be filtering in out west, and that's going to be the game changer, going to bring much colder conditions and all the severe weather that's going to be on the table for next week. So let's take a look at the overall surface map for your Saturday, April the 9th. Underneath that trough, we've got snow flying into portions of Washington and Oregon, up here in Idaho, as well as into Montana, right behind that cold front. But we got critical fire risk out here in West Texas, where it's just been bone dry as of late. Humidity values, you're talking 20% range, and with those higher winds in place, it doesn't take much to spark a fire, and when it does, it can spread rapidly underneath those windy conditions. But underneath that trough, you're still going to be wringing out some wet snowflakes up here in the portions of the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic, and just all showers along the East Coast, along the I-95 corridor as we get into your Saturday afternoon. But as we transition into Sunday, April the 10th, we see that snow just expand. And now not only is it along the Pacific Northwest, but now it shifts into portions of Wyoming, as well as into places into the Rocky Mountains, as well as into Denver. And then that will continue to shift right along that boundary there. There's your cold front. So some of that snow shower will be replaced with into parts of Nebraska, and then out ahead of it in portions of the Ohio Valley, just sporadic showers in its wake over portions of the Tennessee Valley and the Ohio Valley as we get into your Sunday time frame. But as we transition into Monday, things start to get interesting because the ridge of high pressure, as the winds turn around to the southwest, that's a warm wind. So as it does, there's no more colder conditions out here into the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast and the mid-Atlantic. It's going to be replaced with much warmer conditions, and a huge warm up is going to be on the table as we go into early next week, where it's just the complete opposite, where we have a dominating trough that's going to be setting up off the West Coast. That's going to be dragging down some much colder conditions and continue to drag down as we get deeper into your Monday, replacing those record highs with well below average temperatures in California by then. But underneath that, we can see this vorticity as this trough will start to dig off the West Coast. But out ahead of it, we've got a short wave developing out here at the Pacific. That's going to bring the southwest winds, and as it does that, that's going to be bringing a mini disturbance, tapping into the warm sector with some higher dew points by then. So that's going to bring some severe weather back on the table ahead of a dry line as we get into the afternoon hours into portions of Texas, into Oklahoma, as well as into Kansas. In fact, there is the warm sector with all the higher dew points by then. You can see where the dry air, that's where a lot of the critical fire dangers are in place with dew points. That's single digits. It doesn't rain in that type of environment, but once you get ahead of that dry line, there's the warm sector. So really anything above 55 on a dew point, that moistens the atmosphere, and once it taps into that warm sector ahead of that dry line with that instability, with that short wave coming across, that's going to bring a round of stronger storms, and some of those could be on the severe side, more of an isolated nature. But as we get into the afternoon, as those dew points go into the lower to mid 60s, they reach all the way into Kansas, into portions of Missouri, and that is where the severe weather is going to be taking place. In fact, that's where the same area that the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted for a slight risk for severe weather as we get into your Monday timeframe, into North Texas, East Texas, parts of Central Texas, Eastern Oklahoma, Eastern Kansas here, parts of Missouri, as well as parts of Arkansas, with, yes, rounds of all three modes of severe weather will be on the table by then. So definitely be on high alert as we get into the afternoon hours. But out ahead of it, there's the trough. I mean, here's the snow, because there's going to be some snow going to be breaking out as well, with much colder conditions for April standards. But even along the coastline here, they could be seeing some wet snowflakes as we transition into Monday. But along the Intermountain West, we've got plenty of snows, and I think the snows will just keep amplifying as we get deeper into next week. But there's the dry line setup with all the lightning display as we get into your 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon time frame. I think out ahead of it, the dry line will start to fire up, so we should start to see some isolated rounds of stronger storms, and some of those could be on the severe side, heading back into North Texas, heading into Oklahoma as we get into your deeper into the afternoon hours. But the same thing on Tuesday, because this little short wave, we just yet have another disturbance. We have a deepening trough, just digs down a little bit further. Now we're talking it digs all the way down into Southern California. So all those record highs today will be a distant memory by the time we get into Tuesday, with much colder conditions on the table. But yes, we have yet another disturbance with the southwest winds, with the dry line setup again, setting up more severe weather in a lot of the same places that you saw on Monday timeframe. And this time you even have a lot more shear in place. So now the severe mode has actually ramped up a little bit, where the intensity, your Cape value is a little bit higher, the disturbance is a little bit stronger, and I don't think your cap up in the atmosphere in the higher levels. I think storms are going to be more surface based by then, indicating that they could be a little bit more tornadic by then. So definitely be on high alert as we get into your late Tuesday afternoon into your early evening hours, into these portions right here that's highlighted in yellow. All of North Texas, Central Texas, East Texas, portions of Louisiana, Arkansas, portions of Eastern Oklahoma, Eastern Kansas, Eastern Missouri. But I think it does extend all the way up into Iowa by then, as the dew points will continue to rise. And as they do, man, look at that. Look at the warm sector out ahead of it in the central and eastern 2/3 of the U.S., where all the colder temperatures now, rapid change is going to be on the way, which the complete opposite of what it is right now. But replaced all the cold with well above average temperatures, and all the record warmth out west will be replaced with well below average temperature anomalies as we get into your Tuesday, Wednesday time frame of next week. And so as it does, and this is when Wednesday gets really serious, guys, with this 500 millibar wind speed right here, this low level jet. I mean, that is a textbook negative tilt type scenario. And out to the east of there, that's where the lift is going to be, and the cold front trails. And that's a very deepening low pressure system that will tighten up the isobars, bringing much windier conditions and very heavy snow, if not almost blizzard like conditions in parts of the Dakotas as we get into your Wednesday going into Thursday time frame. But out to the east of there, out ahead of that negatively tilted trough, that sets the stage for a much wider, more widespread severe weather as we get into your Wednesday time frame, because there's the warm sector. Check out the temperatures. These are high temperatures, guys. These aren't lows. These are actually high temperatures. We're talking single digits. Yes, under that deepening low pressure system, with very heavy snow going to be breaking out into portions of Montana, into the Dakotas, into Wyoming, and portions of Colorado, where there's the warm sector well into the 90s, if not triple digits. Down here in South Texas, that's like 107, guys. That's some serious heat. So you can see the southwest winds really cranking, and as it does, it's continuing to surge those temperatures and surge those higher dew points further north, getting it into Iowa and even portions of southern Wisconsin and portions of Michigan by then, because there's the low pressure system as we get into the afternoon hours with that deepening low. You're talking a 983 millibar low pressure, those very tight isobars. The tighter the isobars, the heavier winds that will be, and those darkening blues with that convective banding. You're talking very heavy snow is going to be breaking out into portions of the Dakotas, into Wyoming, portions of Montana, as well as into Colorado. That will be on your Wednesday afternoon. And there's the warm sector out ahead of it, where all the severe weather is going to be. But underneath that, man, you got plenty of wind with that low pressure system, with widespread 50, 60, upwards to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. So very windy conditions much of next week, and especially as you get into the middle of next week. Underneath that dominating low pressure system will be dragging down all that colder air, and then very windy conditions in its wake. But there's the setup on the dew points as we get into your Wednesday afternoon. Look, as that south wind really starts to crank, lifting the dew points well into the 60s and almost 70s, all the way up into Iowa, even into Illinois, Indiana, even southern parts of Wisconsin, southern parts of Michigan. That kind of gives you an idea of the potential reach of possibly some of the severe storms could actually reach all the way into Iowa. Even southern Wisconsin and southern Michigan is probably not out of the table as we get into Wednesday afternoon, because you got plenty of southwest winds to work with, plenty of higher temperatures, and plenty of higher dew points. And then you got that strong cold front out ahead of it with that negatively tilted trough with a lot of lift to it, and that's going to set the stage for, yes, a bigger round for severe weather. So you're talking day 3 into portions of North Texas, day 3 into Oklahoma, day 3 into Kansas, getting into Iowa, and I can't roll out. This could actually extend even into portions of southern Wisconsin, southern Michigan by then, even into Illinois. So as we get closer to this day, I think this will be even expanded what you see right now, and I think the risk elevation will be up, especially with that negatively tilted trough in place right now. So Wednesday is a very active day. I think Tuesday and Wednesday, Monday is almost kind of like the warm-up day compared to Tuesday and Wednesday for next week. But look at the comma Q shape that we're dealing with as we get into Thursday with all those tightening isobars. There's a 983 low pressure system with all that heavy snow dragging down from Canada into the Dakotas, back into Nebraska here, even into portions of Kansas there. Without ahead of it, you got all that rain instability with this nasty squall line that's going to be moving across portions of the southeast and the Ohio Valley as we get into your Thursday time frame. But out ahead of it, there's all the winds. So these winds are going to be cranking for a good part of next week, but especially as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with widespread 60s and 70 mile per hour gusts is definitely not out of the question. So it's going to be treacherous travel for a good chunk of the country next week, especially for truck drivers out there. So definitely be on high alert with very windy conditions in its wake for much of next week. But yes, out ahead of it, there's your Saturday setup. As this low pressure winds itself down, as it does winds itself down, it just kind of expands. And as it expands, it loses its kind of a severe threat, and it loses a lot of its wind in its wake, but it still should be ringing out some snow showers by then as we get into your Friday afternoon time frame into portions of Wisconsin and northern parts of Minnesota, as all the heavier rains will be shifting off the East Coast by then. Some of these could be still on the severe side, but not quite as severe as what you're going to be seeing in the midsection of the country. But more importantly, you're probably going to be picking up some very heavy rain by then as we get into your Friday afternoon along the East Coast and into the Northeast on a Friday afternoon. But man, look at the snow. I mean, this is the blend of the model. So this low pressure system means serious business with bursts of snow, heavy snow, if not almost blizzard-like conditions at times into portions of Montana, getting into Wyoming, especially I think in the Dakotas on Wednesday and Thursday timeframe. All those areas in pinks, that's easily a foot of snow for next week, and some of these areas could pick up 18 inches. So definitely don't put away your snow blowers up here, because you're going to be needing them in a big way, especially as we get into middle of next week. And then as we transition to the severe threat, so you can see a widespread event, right? You got all the snow to the north, you got all the severe weather down to the south. So we could be looking at some stronger storms on Sunday, more severe weather on Monday, even more widespread severe weather on Tuesday, even more widespread severe weather on Wednesday. And I think this is even too far out to call it severe right now, because the probabilities are kind of low, being 6 days out. But yes, even Thursday and Friday could be looking at some severe weather on the table, as this will finally push off the coastline as we get into your Saturday time frame of next week. So definitely an active week. So I'll be fine tuning this as we go along throughout the weekend. So I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.